Today's guest has only been in the domain name industry, committed to selling domain names for the past 1 to 2 years, but has already earned a 6-figure salary by purchasing brandable domain names for mostly registration fee and selling them for thousands of dollars. Stay tuned for this motivating story. I have 3 sponsor messages before we get into today's show. First, if you have a great domain name and nothing to show when people visit, you're missing out on potential advertising revenue, leads, and partnership opportunities. NicheWebsites.com can build you a site quickly with a price option to suit any need. But as their tagline says, they don't just build websites, they build businesses. NicheWebsites.com. Second, if you're buying or selling a domain name or portfolio and you want an estimate of its value, Estabot.com is the place to go. Just like you'd visit Zillow.com to get an estimate of a house value, Estabot.com provides key information about the most important statistics so you can make an informed decision based on data. Finally, whether you're buying, selling, brokering, or financing a domain name, you need an escrow company that's properly licensed, bonded, insured, and audited. That company is Escrow.com, and they've been doing it since 1999. Escrow.com. It's about trust. Hey everyone, my name is Michael Seiger. I'm the publisher of DomainSherpa.com, the website where you come to learn how to become a successful domain name investor and entrepreneur directly from the experts. We recently learned about one of the brandable domain name marketplaces called BrandBucket.com, but I wondered, who are the sellers on BrandBucket and how successful are they? Today we're speaking with one of their sellers to learn more about how they've risen to the top in such a short period of time. I'd like to welcome to the show Michael Krell, owner of MediaPlow.com. Welcome, Michael.
Hi, thanks for having me, Mike.
It's great to see you again. You know, it's just a few weeks ago, that your lovely wife and beautiful child came over to Bainbridge Island from Seattle. Let me show you around the island and take you out for some locally made beer.
Yeah, no, you're very generous with your time, and I just was telling my wife when I just remembered our little son sneezed all over you when you were holding him, and yeah, you took it like a true dad, so it didn't faze you.
I got 3 of my own. Nothing really phases me. And that was a lot of fun. That my friend and former basketball player Todd McCullough was at the brewery as well. It was a good time.
Yeah, no, it was. It was fun talking to him about his NBA days.
Yeah, luckily you know more than I did. I just drink beer with the guy.
That works too.
All right, Michael, let's start this interview with your results. In the past year, just the past 12 months, about how many domain names have you sold?
I've sold 65 names in the last 12 months.
Wow. 65. I don't even think I've got 65 inquiries on the domain names that I've owned. 65.
Yeah, I've been lucky.
And of that 65, how many domain names have you sold on BrandBucket.com versus your own marketplace, MediaPlow.com?
Well, I've only had MediaPlow maybe since December or so. Before that, it was just inquiries through some landing pages. So just with BrandBucket, I would say 15 or 20 have sold on BrandBucket, and the rest have been through, MediaPlow, or I still do some GoDaddy premium listings, and, the rest have sold through there. And I mean, the ones that I've sold, especially, before January, let's say, we're definitely in the smaller, the smaller numbers than on BrandBucket.
Gotcha. So BrandBucket is maybe 30% of what you're selling right now?
It's 30% of domains, but right now it's about 65% of my take home.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So 30% of domains, but 60% of the revenue that you're generating. Yeah, actually your take home. So you're talking about the profit.
Yep.
Awesome. And then, so let's talk about that. Before we get to profit, what's the total revenue of those 65 domain names that was generated? Not including how much you paid for all the domain names.
Sure. Yeah. It's about 100,000.
Wow. Okay. 100,000, six figures. And if you had to include the cost to acquire those domain names, is it a significant portion of that total revenue, or is it, or are they mostly hand registrations?
Well, I mean, most of them are definitely under $100 that I acquire them for, but it's still a fairly significant amount. With renewals, just as over the last 12 months with renewals and new purchases, I would say about I put a third of the profits back into acquiring new domain names or renewing ones I currently have.
Gotcha. So a third of your profits go back into new acquisitions and renewals.
Yeah, and out of that 30%, there's probably 10 names that make up 50% of that. Because I'm trying to, I'm putting some money into some higher price names here, in the last few months.
So buying a domain name for $100 and then flipping it for a few $1,000s isn't big enough for you. You're trying to pay a little bit more and then get even higher.
Well,
return.
Yeah, I mean, there's some, I don't know, it's a little of a safer bet, I would say. I mean, you have to put up more money, but it has more liquidity to it. And, I haven't done a 5-figure sale, so that's what I'm kind of shooting for, some 5-figure sales. But I mean, that's definitely for just number of domains. That's a very small number, in my portfolio. Most of them are under $20, I would say, in acquisition costs.
Yeah, cool. And so, that's the past 12 months that you've been at 6 figures. Going forward, looking at your run rate for the next 12 months, what would you say you're targeting?
I'd like to increase it by 50%. I've, over the last year, I've probably acquired 800 names or so, 800 or 900. Mm-hmm. And just with my partnership now with BrandBucket as well, a lot more names are going there, and my sell rate is exponentially better there than it is on my own. So, I hope it's a numbers game, like everything, especially in domaining. So, hopefully the numbers will increase my sales proportionately.
Cool. I can't see a list of your domain names on BrandBucket.com that are for sale. As far as I can tell, there's no way to list domain names by user or seller. Are you allowed to tell us what a few of your domain names are?
Sure. I could send you a link to every seller. They have a link to their profile page on BrandBucket,
okay.
And then you can list them all. Off the top of my head, I've quite a few. There's probably 700 or so right now that are listed on BrandBucket, wow. And that was all within the last maybe 2.5-3 months.
Geez, 700, and they have 6,000. Margot told me on her recent interview. So you've got a good chunk of them.
No, I have a significant amount.
Yeah, and I can't see the sales that you've made either. Are you allowed to discuss the sales that you've made in the past?
Yeah, I can discuss. I can say what names that I've sold. Try not to mention the price, but I can tell you some of the names that I've sold.
What are 3 or 4 of them off the top of your head?
Sure. Sold SteamRocket.com. We were just talking about that. Carpool.com. I just recently sold GlassArmor.com. Last week I sold Platfarm, Platfarm.com.
Cool. And so part of my due diligence process was to actually look at some of your sales that you shared with me privately and look through them and make sure that they actually sold, that you own them and that they sold properly and that somebody's actually using them. And actually, all of the domain names that I spot checked on your list have beautiful looking websites. So the owners that bought them, I would say, are doing great work. One of them looks like a fantastic software as a service. Their prices are high enough that they should be earning quite a lot. Another one was a company that does media and helps them develop. They basically develop out other people's media sites on a great brandable domain name. And then you just mentioned SteamRocket.com, so anybody can go to to that website and see that Kevin Harrigan, one of the original sharks on the Shark Tank, who has helped hundreds of companies launch their own products and services, fitness, whatever, what have you, on Home Shopping Network. Just a guru looking to do investments and gather more leads through that website. So some really big sales, I would say, for probably not the kind of sale price that I might expect to see from a shark like Kevin Harrigan, who has at least hundreds of millions of dollars in net asset value. I don't know exactly how much he has. Are you surprised that well-known people and larger companies are buying domain names from you? Does that strike you as strange at all?
Yeah, no. I mean, it's definitely a little surreal. Most of those have been gone through BrandBucket. There are one or two I have in conversation, was in conversation with a couple kind of Fortune 500 companies for one or two of my own, I was selling individually. But I think it just kind of goes to BrandBucket and their connections they have in the VC world. And, it doesn't take a long time for word to get around, and, just the time you save by, just looking at the names and, picking the one you like.
Yeah, definitely. So on your marketplace, MediaPlow.com, I can see you own names like ShootIt.com, LaunchPack.com, Encryptable.com, EnergyStack.com. Are these representative of your portfolio, or did I just cherry pick some of your best domains?
Those are some of the featured ones, but I think it's a pretty decent representation. Before, I think there's maybe 700 or so on there right now. And, there were, before I started moving a large part of it to BrandBucket, there were, about 1,200 or so on the site. But I would say I definitely specialize in 2 words. I would say, all of mine they're based off of some sort of keyword. They aren't, like Margot is definitely the guru with like linguistics and made up words, but I usually stick to keywords, specific domains.
Margot being the founder of BrandBucket.com, Margot Bushnock, who I did an interview with just a few weeks ago, and you can go back on the homepage and watch that interview. Let's go back in time for a few minutes, Michael. I always like to learn how people got started in the domain name industry, so others that, are either just starting out or looking to get into it can relate to their situation to yours. What was your professional experience prior to investing in domain names?
Sure. Well, it was always, I would say, e-commerce related. 16 or 17, I was, got out my HTML book from the library and started to do, some web design stuff, and then going to thrift stores and, flipping things on eBay, Pyrex bowls or salt shakers, things like that, through high school. And then in college, I became a little more interested in clothing and in like men's fashion. And it's kind of funny. I was looking on eBay and I saw these t-shirts that looked like someone had just taken some fabric paint and a foam brush and just kind of did whatever with them, just splattered them. And they were selling for $100, $120. I'm like, well, I can do something that's just as good or bad, as that. So, I just started buying American Apparel t-shirts and, just did these really kind of corny phrases or, corny things on them. And like people are actually paying like 50, 60, 70, $100 for these shirts, on eBay. And then I met someone who had been sewing his whole life, and we got together and started our own upper end men's cut and sew business. So, we get the fabric in from the mill, and, we had the patterns, cut and sewed it, and we sold it primarily through styleform.net. They don't have the .com, it's just styleform.net, and they might be the largest men's fashion forum now. They have like 1.5 million members, and we sort of, I like to say we pioneered the kind of B2C business model for clothing, because, we would really ask the forum participants, what they wanted, in a long sleeve shirt or in a hoodie and give them fabric swatches, so we didn't have to make something we thought was nice but would just, not sell it all. And I did that. Then 2008 happened, and people weren't buying $150 hoodies anymore. And so I did all the web work and marketing with that, and then actually was a manager for a homeless shelter for a couple years that I volunteered at previously, and then I always did web stuff on the side. And then I took a job at a startup here in Omaha, and this is how I kind of got into the domaining part of it. It was called Violet, and the owner purchased Violet.com, and it's publicized. I think it sold for $75,000 or something like that, and that's when I was, I sort of knew about domains. I had a Names Pro account maybe from 6 years ago, but I never used it. I don't know why I set it up. But then I just got thinking, and this owner, he had many other really premium names, and it just got me thinking, I need to look more into this.
Yeah. So basically you're working for this person in one of his companies, and you became aware that that he had just purchased Violet.com for $75,000, and you're like, wow, how could somebody pay so much for a domain name?
Yeah, I mean, I knew domains sold for something like, I knew they were valuable, but I think it was more just the collection. I kind of, knew some of the other names that he had. So I was like, I need to look into it more. And then I did some searching and, saw some news stories of people, making some decent money on domains. And
yeah. So then so you were working at his company. You saw that domain names had aftermarket value, that you did some research and said, hey, this is, property like real estate. What was your first step into the domain name industry? What was your first domain name that you bought for, which you probably owned before because you were developing websites, but what was the first domain name that you made for an investment?
Sure. I don't know what the first one was. I mean, they're all just kind of embarrassing and stupid, but I think I know one of the first ones was caffeinatedjerky.com or something because of that.
That sounds good. I love jerky and I love coffee, like caffeinated jerky. Because
there's a company, it's a pretty big beef jerky company that has caffeinated jerky. And I don't know, I was looking food trends or something, Googling that. And so, and then blatant trademark infringements like Starbucks juice, because they were just purchased a juice company or something, or kind of blatant ones for the most part. Until I started learning more.
So you dipped your toe in the water, you bought some domain names, you realized that hey, there are trademarks, and while you made the mistake, you wanted to get out of those, and then you looked at some that were, just trends or crossed your desk, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Like caffeinated jerky. What was the first domain name that you had purchased that actually sold to somebody else?
Sure. The first one that I sold was TechCloud, and it was with a K, TEK cloud.com.
And do you remember how much you sold that for?
It was, I think, $300.
$300. So maybe, do you remember what marketplace you sold it on?
It was a premium listing on GoDaddy.
Uh-huh.
And I know I picked it up in the closeout auctions for, $5 plus registration.
Yeah. So you paid basically $17 to $20. You listed it on premium, which I think has a listing fee, right?
It's a free, but they take 30%.
30%. So you sold it for $200. They took 30%, which is $300. 60. Is that right?
Yeah, I sold it for $300.
Oh, $300. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
300, 30, 60, 90. So $210 minus your $20. So you're like $180 up.
Yeah, no, I'm like, this is amazing. I woke up one morning, and it's like, oh, your premium listing is. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And, of course, I like tell my wife, because my wife just kind of thinks I'm just doing, like, I'm telling her some of these names I'm buying, and I mean, she's like just kind of nodding her head, I mean, she doesn't really understand, and it's
Well,
like,
but at this point, you haven't sold any, and you just sold
no,
TechCloud, and like, yeah, you sold it without any work
yeah,
besides the listing of it. But, is she looking at you as like, all right, Michael, just make sure that you're bringing in your salary and everything's okay?
sure, yeah, pretty much. And this was right too when I started, around the same time when I left Violet and did my own started my own web company. So it was, there wasn't a regular check coming in every month. So it was a little, it was. I started with 1,000. That's what I thought when after I bought my bad names. I said, okay, I want to invest $1,000. I think I can do something with it. And so, yeah, $180. That was great.
Yeah. So what did you do with all those bad names that you originally bought?
I deleted the bad ones,
Yeah.
and then I think I sold another one. I was asking my wife where are some dumb ones. One was like DetroitD.com, because I look up like Estabot, like I didn't know value, like, oh, this is, valued at $1,000. And it was like most people are looking for like the tattoos with Detroit D, with like the Detroit Tigers D on it. And so like I had a page that was just, it was just like, I was happy when I made 30 cents on an, AdSense ad, or, so, those ones I just let drop, or maybe I sold them, on a forum for a couple bucks or something.
Gotcha. So you basically just cleared them out one way or another.
Yeah.
After your first sale, you said, hey, there's something here. And you decided at that point that you'd spend $1,000 to buy some domain names and see what you could do with that?
Previously, the batch that included TechCloud, I had 1,000. Okay. So I said I was gonna take 1,000. And when TechCloud sold, I tried to focus on, because obviously cash flow was a big deal. I didn't want to put any more money into it. So it was really splitting the time between buying names that I thought a small business could, buy from me the same day I regged it, at a few $100s, and then buying names that I thought sounded good. I mean, I didn't even know like what a randomable, that really wasn't, that's what you call them now. But I just thought, wow, this is amazing. When I saw GoDaddy's expired auctions, I'm like, wow, this is amazing that all these domains, are available to purchase. So it was really a mix of what names I could flip right away to, get the cash flow going, what names I could hold on to a little bit.
Were you worried at that time that you spent this $1,000 and none of them were going to sell, and you're going to come to the end of your year and have to pay, 100 renewals at another $1,000?
I mean, yeah, I always worry about those things. I mean, like, seems like once a month or something, like, man, is the domain ever going to sell again? Like right now, I think so. I mean, like, that's just kind of the way it's not healthy, I know, but that's kind of the way I think.
Well, I'm going to ask you more about that.
Okay.
But before we get there, so your domain business has grown over the past 12 months. You bought $1,000 worth of domain names as basically your launch pad. Would you recommend to others that they limit their investment at the beginning, like you did?
Yeah, I think it's very important to, and I started about almost 3 years ago with that 1,000. And no, I definitely think, you need to have a bankroll. And, I have a little bit of a background in kind of gambling and poker. And I mean, I was an economics major and stuff. So, you need to have a bankroll sufficient enough, to keep you in business, but you don't want to go over that, because then, you go down a bad path when you start, not being able to pay off your credit cards anymore.
Yeah. So looking back 2-3 years ago, you'd say $1,000, buy anything you want with $1,000. Maybe it's one domain, maybe it's a bunch of expired domains, maybe it's some premium domains for a couple $100, off of an auction list. Or would you say, try and get as many as you can? Don't buy one domain for $1,000. What would you recommend?
I wouldn't recommend buying a domain for 1,000, just because you don't know, you don't know when that's going to sell. You know, if you got a really good deal, yeah, maybe you could flip it, for 2,000 in, a month or two. But when I did it, I think the most I paid for a name was maybe $100, and most everything else was in the closeouts, and GoDaddy auctions, so between $5 and $11 plus reg fee. And just with just the names that I've sold, there's absolutely zero correlation between how much I paid for it, or almost no correlation between like what sells and how much I pay for it. So, that's what I used to say to myself, is that, wow, like this name that I thought was awesome that I paid maybe $200 for, or these names that maybe I paid $100 or $200 for, like none of them are even getting offers. But like these reg fee ones, or people are emailing me, and paying a few $100 or $1,000 for it.
Yeah, and is that the case with the ones that you sell for? What Margot said is the sweet spot on BrandBucket between $2,000 and $4,000. Do you see the same correlation that ones that you buy for $100 get less sales than the ones that you buy for reg fee or through closeout?
Sure. I'm trying to think of names that I've sold that, out of, since I started in BrandBucket, which was a little over a year ago. I think I've sold about a little over 30 names, and I think maybe 3 of those names I purchased for between $100 and $200, and everything else was a reg fee, a closeout auction, or maybe 20 or 30 bucks.
Well, that speaks to the fact that you're registering brandable domain names that both Margot and the customers that come to BrandBucket.com like to see. So
sure.
That leads me to my next set of questions about your secret sauce, Michael. What is, now that you've been working on this for, 2 to 3 years, you've got 6 figures of revenue underneath your belt for the past 12 months. What's your process nowadays for finding and buying brandable domain names?
Sure. Well, some of the basics I look on, I definitely look on GoDaddy's expiring auctions and do, looking for names under 13 characters. I only looking for .coms, that are around 6 years old, at least 6 years old. And when I started, I looked at maybe 3 years old because I had more time to, to search for some of those names. But now I don't know why I choose 6. I don't know. It's a good number, I guess. So, I look and, there's maybe 1,000 names or so that meet that criteria every day, that are coming up for auction. And then I have just a little web software that that I had developed, that I put in a list of maybe 60 keywords, maybe 70 keywords with under 13 characters long. And about the same, maybe 800 or so, those are dropping every day. And that's pretty much, that's my process. And then, like with NameJet, I definitely look at Domain Shane sometimes, to see the things that he's listing there. Most of those are out of my price range,
Well, I was gonna say, the stuff that Shane is listing have like 60 bidders on it, and it's going for at least a couple grand. It doesn't seem to fit the MO that you've described so far.
I've been able to get some good ones for under 1,000. I haven't, it's just maybe a couple, but I definitely take a look and see, what they're going for. If it's good enough, I'm willing to, put in some money to it. But it's definitely a good way to get your auctions up higher. It seems like everybody that's like the Midas. He seems to be kind of Midas with the domains that he chooses.
Well, speaking of Shane, if you're a gambler and you play craps, you got to come to Vegas with us next January for NamesCon, because Shane and I like to play craps, and if you're a numbers guy, that's good, because we need numbers guys.
Right. All right. I don't know if my wife would like that, but...
Quick break from 3 sponsors of today's show. First, are you tired of being upsold and cross-sold when you buy or renew a domain? Then try the newest registrar, being built from the ground up with a beautiful interface, competitive pricing, and 24/7 support. Uniregistry.com will surprise and delight you. The right domain can change your life. Uniregistry.com. Second, investing in Chinese domains is crazy hard without expert native language advice. Now, as a service to the Western domainer community, TLD Registry offers ChineseLandRush.com. Using ChineseLandRush.com will help you invest in Chinese domains with confidence and without knowing a word of Chinese. Finally, Media Options is a boutique domain brokerage firm that gets results. They've specialized in helping companies acquire and sell high-value domain names since 2005, with a client list ranging from funded startups to Fortune 500 corporations. Visit MediaOptions.com to learn more. All right, so you're looking at domains that are under 13 characters, so you want a shorter, and you generally go for 2-word domain names, so 13 characters is shorter for 2 words. .com only, 6 years old, you don't know why, you just sort of you have to limit it someplace, and if it's 3 years old, you're going to get, a ton of domain names to go through, and you just don't have that much time. Is that what it comes down to?
3 years, I haven't checked, but I would guess 3 years is at least double of what 6 years is. It may be triple. I don't know. But
do you find that domains that have been registered for at least 5 to 6 years are more valuable than ones that were registered last year?
Not necessarily. I do think that I can find names that are outside of my keyword list that I wouldn't normally be searching for. It could be a keyword that I wouldn't, put together.
Yep.
So because of what I also put in that keyword list in GoDaddy auctions as well, that I don't put any sort of age requirement on it. So that's mainly what it's there for, is just names that I would normally skip over if I was just looking for my keywords.
Yep, that makes sense. And so you're looking at 1,000 domains per day basically at GoDaddy auctions. You also have 60 to 70 keywords that you mentioned. Are those keywords like app and cloud and hosting and things like that or specific words that you like to target with brandable domain names? So you're looking for any domain that's dropping with that keyword in it?
Sure. App, I used to, but I kind of stay away from that because it obviously has to be an app. Generally, I guess when app's in the beginning, I have some app domains where app is the beginning of the word, like app crate, for example. But cloud is definitely a good one. People are just really interested in buying cloud domains. Within reason, it seems like whatever you put in front of it doesn't really matter because every business, I've sold just through MediaPlow, Brave Cloud, and it was a company that was called Brave something in Australia, and so they wanted Brave Cloud, and then Pivot Cloud and Gravity Cloud, and names that...
Is there any actual? So I'm an engineer. I love to have formulas and actual processes. Is there anything that defines whether a domain name is going to be better, or the fact that your analytical side looks at cloud and said that's a good keyword, and then find any sort of adjective to put before it, and you can't necessarily predict whether that adjective is going to be better or worse?
Yeah, I think you probably could make some sort of program that would do that. But I just think it's almost all my names are tech, or it's almost all tech names, and so just keeping up to date and just knowing what other companies are naming themselves, and just words that you would you often hear in the tech world. And if you have a keyword and you have one of those words, then generally they're going to work decently together. And I definitely, not so much now, but before, I'd really think over, should I buy this name? Should I not buy this name? And it's I feel comfortable enough where I think, 1 in 100 names, I can get $1,000 for 1 in 100 of these names if I register it. So, if I'm on the fence, I generally do it. Mm-hmm. And, I guess, too, another thing about, my process, I kind of have names that, I know I need a back order at Snap Names or NameJet, and they're ones that I know I can probably get from like Phoenix, for example, and then they're ones I know I can just register by hand and not, pay any back fee.
So when you're looking at a domain name that's getting ready to expire, you're thinking to yourself, is this a domain name? Because it's brandable, people may not be searching for it by, keyword, by Estabot value, which a lot of domain investors do. You're completely over here on the brandable side, and you're thinking, are other people going to put in a back order? If not, I don't want to pay the $59 or $69 at Snapname or Namejet.
Yeah.
And then I can go to the next level, which is Phoenix, Pheennix, which has a pretty good capture rate but it's going to cost you $18.95. Or can you just wait for it and play your poker analogy here and wait for it and get it for reg fee, which you may get for anywhere from $1 with a coupon up to $8 or $9 with a goatee. So that's your thought process. How desirable is this brandable name, and can I wait for it?
I mean, it's definitely like penny pinching. I would, maybe I'm losing out, on some expected value if I, would do, if I would put in a back order. But, if there are 100 names, I've definitely probably hand registered 100 names in the last, say, 3 months, and, that's a lot of money if you're going to Namejet for each one of the names. And, it's significant if you're going through Phoenix for those names too. So, it's just something like a month or two ago, I sold a name on BrandBucket and I didn't know whether I wanted it for $5. And then I'm like, I won't get it for $5 on GoDaddy. And then I ended up hand registering it. And then it ended up selling for, I got like $1,000 from it, so I'm like, I probably should not be leaving this on the table here.
How often do you sort of go from, back order at Snapnames, Namejet to Phoenix to like, I'm just going to hand register it and you lose it? Does that happen a lot to you?
If it happens, it's usually like Namejet or Snapnames gets it before Phoenix.
Yeah.
Not hand registers, not so much anymore. It seems like Namebright, Huge Domains has at least.
Those Rayberry brothers, they're snapping up anything that used to be registered for more than a few years. I'm not sure what their algorithm is, but they snap up a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I purposely, because before I would choose really generic keywords. I mean, I still use cloud because it's good, but, maybe like design or, something that ends in design. And, and I look to him like, who's this Andrew Rebery who gets all these names, And so I definitely modified my keyword list to, kind of go around that. So it seemed like I don't lose very many between back ordering it in Phoenix or deciding to hand reg it.
Right. Because you're looking at the domain name and saying, is this a good brand? Is it aspirational? Is it, does it give me a good feeling? And their automated system and other automated systems like drop catching softwares look at just these accumulation of letters and saying, does it have search volume? Does it have advertisers? Does it have, search? I've already said search volume. What else do they look for? Whatever, and basically these brandables don't have it because maybe it's spelled tech with TEK and it just kills the search volume.
Yeah. No, exactly. And no, luckily they haven't changed an algorithm to
How many hours per day, Michael, would you say that you spend looking over drop lists and looking through your search results to pick your good names that you want to invest in?
I mean, with bidding and auctions, I would say a couple hours. It's tough to say because an auction, you might have one that ends in the morning and one that ends in the afternoon, so it kind of seems like you're doing it all day long. But brain time is probably 1 to 2 hours.
Yeah, and then what do you do the rest of the day?
I have a design and web and mobile design development firm, so it's a lot of project management basically right now, and things that take a lot more time than than selling domain names.
Hey, if somebody's watching this show and they have a domain name that they've been looking to develop, does your firm actually help do development like that for other people?
Yeah, we do. It's, I mean, price is kind of a relative thing. Some people think that $500 is a lot of money, or some people, don't bat an eyelash at 10,000. So I mean, it's really like 10,000 is kind of like our minimum, I would say.
Yeah,
that would be
for a
interesting.
project that you're working on. So it's going to be database related. It's going to have some sort of more sophisticated aspects than just set up a WordPress website.
Exactly.
And I went to MediaPlow.com, your marketplace, and it's a sweet looking site. It's based on WordPress, but clearly you've done a lot of development for the user interface and the back end and the contact forms. You've done all that work yourself?
It was based off of a theme, actually. But there is some, back end functionality that, was added in there, and, some tweaks to make it a little more domain friendly.
Yeah. Well, I like it. How many, you talked about a couple of hours per day spending looking through the drop list to figure out what you want to buy. How many domain names do you register per day, would you say, on average?
I would say anywhere for, 4 or 5 on average, I would say.
4 to 5 per day.
Yeah, I would say, yeah.
But you're not selling 4 or 5 per day, so your volume must be, the volume of domain names that you have under management is increasing.
Sure, right now it's at about 1,600.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And do you find that the more domains you have, the more sales you're getting? Is there a 1-to-1 or some sort of correlation between the number of domains and your sales and your take-home revenue?
Sure. I haven't really run the numbers about, like how many, like buying 100 domains equals one more sale a month. Mm-hmm. But it's just kind of been a feel, I'm selling names. I should buy more names. These names are selling. It probably should be a little more analytical than it is, and, if domains are selling well in a month, maybe I'll, put in some bids on some higher price names. Yeah. I guess cash flow is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
So, but there isn't like a set formula that I have.
Gotcha. Hey, Michael, you registered perfectstart.com and terrificstart.com. One sold, one has not yet. Both are 13 characters, both are .com. What's the difference between these two domain names in your opinion?
Well, Perfect Start, it's a much more common phrase. I'm a sports fan. I'm definitely a sports fan. So Perfect Start, that may have been, it's a very common phrase in sports, the team got off to a perfect start, and it's, it can be used in a multiple variety of businesses. And, Terrific Start, I only registered Terrific Start after I sold Perfect Start. So, I was just looking for synonyms, just going to thesaurus.com and looking for synonyms of, perfect,
sure,
and see what I could get. And I still think terrific, it's still, they still say the same thing. But, terrific too, it might be, is it 2 R's or 2 F's? It's a little bit more difficult to spell.
One additional syllable, one additional character.
Yeah, I just say that mainly like the phrase just isn't as common as Start.
Yeah. So part of it is just like having that ear for good phrases, common phrases, both aspirational, both, good brands to start a business, to run a media company, what have you. There are a lot of different companies might want a domain name like that, but just slight differences between words is enough to make the difference between a sale and not. And having said that, today somebody could put in an offer and buy Terrific Start. Who's to say?
Sure. Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, and that's the difference. Just like from a wholesale value, I think Perfect Start was definitely one of the most expensive names. I think I paid $1,500 for it. and Terrific Start was available for hand registration. So
Right. And how much did you sell Perfect Start for? Do you remember?
Able to get 8,300 for it.
Nice.
I think I could have gotten more, but it's tough to turn. I mean, it's
bird in the hand.
Yeah, no, it's difficult to turn weight for 12,000. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what is your process for selling brandable domain names? We talked about your website, MediaPlow.com, which is your own marketplace, and we talked about BrandBucket.com. Clearly, Margot Bushnock and her team are bringing people to BrandBucket, developing their own, outreach and have their own readership. Do you do any outbound marketing on your own? What is your process for selling the domain names?
Sure. Well, most of the names that BrandBucket will have, all those names are eventually going to go onto BrandBucket, since we kind of reached a partnership in July where I become a BrandBucket ambassador, and I think we'll talk about that a little later.
Yeah.
But so the names on MediaPlow, will hopefully eventually go over to BrandBucket. Before that, I really didn't do a whole lot of marketing, and I should have, but I was just busy with other projects, and all the sales were honestly just, they typed in the name and they liked it and they bought it.
So before a domain name was on BrandBucket, if somebody typed in a domain name, where would they go?
They would go to the sale page on MediaPlow.
So they would go to MediaPlow.com / the specific page to that domain name?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're basically going into GoDaddy or whatever your registrar is and putting in a redirect on that domain name to the specific sale page on MediaPlow.
Yep.
Got it.
That's what I think is the most important, because before I had the marketplace, I just had Woofu forums, because I think I never understood all the landing pages or all the where you had to find where the button was to contact someone to buy the domain. And, you're not making any money in ad revenue. And I always thought it was just like a spam page, and I just wanted to make it as clear as possible that this name is for sale if you want to purchase it. So, before that, I just had Woofu forms.
Woofu, W-U-F-U, which is some sort of contact form that you run on your website?
Yeah, W-U-F-O-O.
That's it. Yep, W-U-F-O-O.
Yeah, and that was, I had a VPS service just with, my business, and so I would just put in, you make one form, and you just put that in, the root file and, the domain name, and then it would take them, the contact page would show up.
Gotcha. So all were passive sales. People are typing it in. And I'm amazed that, I guess if you had the idea to register it, somebody else might as well. Did you actually have a buy it now price on the Woofu forums when you started out?
I didn't. And I wish I did, because I think I left a lot of money on the table. Because I don't know, it was still kind of baffling to me that people would be paying this much money for a domain name. And so I'd be like, if I got $200 or $300, I'm like, man, this is awesome. But I definitely think if you just would have put a price saying, even if you put $1,000, let's say, people are more likely to offer you to start at 600 or even 500 than to start at 200, let's say. Mm-hmm. And so if I had to do it over again, I definitely would put some sort of buy now price on it, especially for the names that I had, because it was just all about moving them. I didn't want, I'm not holding on to them waiting for someone to pay $10, $20, $30,000 for. I just wanted to move on and buy more names.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So now if I go to MediaPlow.com, I can see all of your domain names have an asking price. Clearly, if I go to BrandBucket.com, I can see all of them have an asking price. What percentage of your sales on both websites are at asking price?
So on MediaPlow, it was higher than I thought it would be. I'd say it was almost 50%, which surprised me.
So 50% will say, I think your asking price is reasonable, I will pay that, and they will just click the buy now button.
Yeah, well, they normally would contact me first and then buy it. So it may have been a little bit less, but I was surprised that it was even like any percent because
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, you know, that someone would just sort of blindly, you know, drop $2,000, you know, on, I don't know. I guess it looks credible enough.
Well, it's blindly to you, but for them, they may have been researching for the past 2 weeks and nothing's available, like we all know. And, you know, they finally stumble upon one and it's a reasonable price. Like, I'm going to buy it.
Yeah.
I've spent enough time on this.
Definitely. Yeah. And then on BrandBucket, I've sold around 30, and all but 3 have been at asking price. Yeah, and they've been in the high 4 figures.
Wow.
So, some have been in the high 4 figures.
Yeah. So that leads me to my next question: are your sales consistent from week to week, or do they vary from week to week?
Week to week, they definitely vary. Month to month, they're getting a little more consistent. I definitely, since moving a lot over to BrandBucket, I think they've become a lot more consistent because there's a consistent viewership that's, you know, looking at the names, whereas before it was really just, is someone going to wake up and type in, you know, this specific name into the search bar and not really go to some place to find a name, you know, and they're not sure about. So it's been, except for maybe June and February of this year, it's been pretty darn consistent. I mean, but it's per month, but it could be like, you know, I might sell one or two and, you know, the first week of the month, then nothing, and then, you know, all of a sudden like 6 sell at the end of the month, or, you know, something like that. So it still gives me enough time to like worry about if any names are going to sell this month.
So is that your biggest fear in domain investing today, that you may go a week without any sales and you're like, what just happened? The entire market changed and suddenly I don't have my, you know, secondary income stream, but then a bunch will hit. And is that your biggest fear right now?
Great in the world. I guess, I mean, that's just kind of the way, I don't know. It's just sort of the way. I mean, it's probably isn't, I mean, I've become more confident in it, definitely. Cause I recommitted to it about, maybe 13 or 14 months ago, after about a year of just really doing it passively. I'm like, you know, I really recommitted and put in more capital to purchase names. Mm-hmm. And so I feel confident enough that I shouldn't worry about that, but you know, you always do. I mean, at least just running your own business, that, you know, you always worry about that, you know, and I don't know, it's just, I probably lose years off of my life by worrying about that stuff. There's nothing you can do.
That's why I got all this gray hair here. Yeah, I'm of the belief that only the paranoid survive, so you'll make it. So how do you decide? Let me ask you a few questions about BrandBucket, and I don't want to make this a commercial for BrandBucket. We've already had Margot on from BrandBucket explaining it. Sure. How do you decide if your domain names that you own should be listed on your site only for sale, or if they should go on BrandBucket.com?
Right now, you know, when I purchase a name, I try to put it up as soon as possible on MediaPlow, and then I have to wait, just like, you know, anyone else does, for BrandBucket just to review the names. And since mine are going in, you know, maybe, you know, I'm setting a spreadsheet maybe with 200 or 300, you know, at a time. That's going to take that much longer to sort of go through. So I'm going to put them on MediaPlow first, just in case, you know, if there's, you know, a buyer out there, you know, I can pick up, maybe there's, you know, I don't know, 1, 2, 3 of those sellers that, you know, I can capture those sales there before they go on to BrandBucket. So, it's MediaPlow first, and then, you know, just wait till hopefully they get accepted on BrandBucket.
Gotcha. And you mentioned previously that you were a BrandBucket ambassador. What does it mean to be an ambassador to BrandBucket.com?
Sure. Well, it's kind of like it says. It's just trying to tell people what BrandBucket's all about, that they actually do sell names, that it's, you know, legitimate. There are people behind there, that, you know, there's a team behind there that are, you know, working on selling your names, and, you know, being more closely associated with a, you know, like the original brandable marketplace in the domain space.
Got it. And do you get any perks? Like you had mentioned that you submitted your domain names to BrandBucket. Do you go to the top of the line? Do you get more of your domain names onto BrandBucket? And, you would think that, like, if you're an ambassador, I know that ambassadors to the United States, they drive around in those cars with the flags and they don't have to get any parking permits. I think they can legally kill somebody and then just flee the country. Not just joking. But are there any benefits like that you have that regular sellers don't have?
Sure. Well, I don't get any preferential treatment like in moving my names up the list of, getting them published or anything. I do get, if I want to market my portfolio, say to, I don't know, a meetup, or if I wanted to, if we decided it made sense to go to a domain conference, let's say, BrandBucket would comp me for those business expenses. And then, it's, I guess, cliche to say it, but just to be more closely tied in with Margot and her husband, Frost, they've been successful in, many other ventures, and it's just good to be a part of a successful team.
Sure. All right, so that makes sense. And, one of the things I should clarify, because I didn't do proper research before I interviewed Margot, I didn't realize that there was a fee to list your domain names on BrandBucket. So if anybody's watching the show and they're like, I'm going to go register some domain names, just like Michael did, every domain name, correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, every domain name that's accepted onto BrandBucket that you list, you have to pay $10 fee for. Is that correct?
Yep, it's $10, yeah.
Okay.
And, it's really just to keep the marketplace as premium as possible, and just not, people aren't going to be submitting, whatever.com because they think it's good. It's not.
Right, exactly. And it also goes, I clarified with Margot over Skype that it goes to editorial and it goes to creating the logo, which of course the logo designer will be compensated for after it sells, but right now logo designers are doing work for free, and it could be on the marketplace for years and some other overhead expenses. Michael, let me ask you this. How have domain names allowed you to live your personal life differently than if you wouldn't have discovered that they were an investment vehicle?
Well, as surprising as it may sound, I actually worry less. I do actually worry less about things, because like any business, again, like cash flow is a problem. Like with my development design business, you have all the projects that are set aside, and okay, this month, this project's gonna be finished, and then all of a sudden, you have two decision makers and they both are going on vacation, in August, and you can't start, development project until they okay the design of something, and that pushes your paycheck,
right.
that pushes everything back. And those times can get a little bit stressful and a little bit hairy, because you got to pay contractors, and so it's definitely, created a little buffer, I would say, for just my other business, and also putting money into other ventures that I'm trying to start here. So and then it doesn't hurt, I got to have a family and bills and everything, so it definitely helps to have extra income.
Yeah. If you could offer advice to someone that was thinking about starting out today in the domain name industry, much like you did a couple years ago, what advice would you offer them?
Well, I would say you have to look for, again, we mentioned a bankroll. Okay, I'm going to spend $100 or $200 or $300 or whatever it is, and stick to that. And then, if you're starting like on a shoestring, which I'd say $1,000 is, that's not a whole lot of money to go into the domain industry with. But you could do it for less. You can do it for $500. Is to, try to get names that you can flip quickly, that you can get, generated enough money to buy, more names, and really separate them. Okay, these are names I can sit on a little bit, that I can put whatever it is, just make it clear and simple that the name is for sale, and don't put any barriers in front of the buyer in order to sell that name. So definitely wouldn't do parking pages or anything like that. I definitely would, like, obviously, suggest BrandBucket, but Woofu pages, contact forms are great. And not spending any more money until you start selling it, until names start selling. And it's really just patience. You can't expect that this is going to be your full-time job in 6 months, or a year, or 2 years, or 3 years. It's a process, and you have to acquire names as they come to you. You
can't force it. You have to have patience to acquire them.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and definitely look at trends. That's what I did before. Also, I've sold a few like food-related names just from looking at food trends. Like I sold at agrachef.com a couple, like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, because I saw, on like the trends of 2013 or something, and it mentioned that name, and this company in Canada ended up, purchasing it. And, definitely the tech field is the field that I would, highly recommend. You look at TechCrunch, you look at Crunchbase, and you see, what companies are starting and what they're calling themselves, and parsing keywords and parsing phrases from those companies into your search.
Good advice. And if you were to recommend to those people who are starting out today to either completely stick to brandable domain names like you do, or to start off buying keyword-rich domain names, or a mix, would you have a recommendation for them?
I would definitely go to brandable. I mean, and brandable, it doesn't mean like mine are 2 words. I mean, they're real words that are together. I would say the majority of my names are 2 real words that you put together. And so it doesn't have to be made up. But the keywords, companies just aren't buying extended keyword phrases. I mean, Andreessen Horowitz isn't investing in, I don't know, computerlaptopkeyboards.com. You know what I mean? And so,
unless it has just massive search volume and
sure,
tons of advertisers, then maybe. But you're going to spend, 5-6 figures for those domain names.
Yeah. It's going to be out of your budget to begin with.
Yeah.
So, no, the real money is definitely in brandable names and the keywords. And then some people say, well, you should develop it. Developing takes a long time to do anything right. And it's a pain in the butt, and you still don't make any money off of ads anyway. And, for passive income, definitely, brandables is the way to go.
Hey, Michael, are you afraid that that coming on Domain Sherpa and telling people that brandables is the way to go is going to create more competition for you as a domain investor?
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, there's plenty out there. There's so many names that I miss. I mean, you can't go through, 2,000 or 3,000 names a day and not miss, a few of them. And you definitely have to work a little harder to get up there. But I don't think I'm exposing any secrets or, everything all the knowledge I acquired is just, through the years of doing it. So I don't know if there's any like golden ticket to it. It's just patience, I would say, and just, slowly building the portfolio up.
Yeah, hard work and patience and a little bit of luck. And a lot of people are unfortunately missing those. The luck comes to those who are prepared, as they say. Yeah. If you have any questions for Michael, please post them in the comments below this video on Domain Sherpa, and I'll ask Michael to come back and answer as many as he can. I also encourage you to take a moment to say thank you to Michael for coming on here, for sharing his insights, his experience, being open about what he does and how he does it. I'm going to have a link below to thank him on Twitter if you'd prefer to do that. But if you could just post a comment that even just says thank you, I know that if I were to come on a show like this, I would love to hear that I've helped other people achieve their goals. I'm going to be the first to thank Michael right now. Michael Kress, owner of MediaPlow.com. Thank you for coming on Domain Sherpa, sharing your insights on buying and selling brandable domain names, and thanks for being a Domain Sherpa for others.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.